developer, Dan Castro here. I'm glad to have you, and I hope you have a good time today. So, today we are going to talk about React Router. Have you heard about it before? Well, for those of you who haven't, it's a React routing library for both client and server side. Can you imagine the simplest way to enable navigation in your React apps? Yeah, that's exactly what React Router does. Let's get started. So just a couple of days ago, I released a new post to the Welcome Developer blog about this subject. So in there, we talk about with details, and we go through each explanation and hands-on exercise. So I highly recommend you to follow along with the post as well. So might be a good idea for you to watch this video and then jump into the post right after, so you can learn more. And yeah, enough talking for now. So let's get started, developer. So in here I have my VS Code. So feel free to use your own, your favorite IDE or code editor. So I'm using VS Code here. So I created this React app using Vite. If you prefer to use Quick React app, it's totally up to you. I think probably only small details will be different between our apps, and I'll always try to refer to create a React app as well during my examples. Right, let's get started then. So first thing that we need to install the React Router DOM library, and we want to install the version 6, which is the latest one today that I'm recording this video. Perfect. Awesome, that's the first thing that we need. So after that, let's just get rid of some boilerplate code that comes together when we create the app. So here on my app, basically I want to remove everything. I'll just keep the header so we can save some style. And then in here, let's say that we have just one, say welcome developer, and then that should be good for now. Let's just remove this reference state as well. We keep the CSS style, and I think that's good for now. Great, let's do one thing. So let's just create a main section, and in here let's do some class app. There'll be app content, and so for now this is my homepage. Great. So next, let's create this class app component. So header, I will just change this a little bit just so we can have more space. I'll change the mean height to be 30% of the viewport, and I will create the other one, which is app content. Let's just double check the name. Cool. And here for this style, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna copy from the post. Yeah, perfect. Let's copy from here. Cool. Perfect. And let's just change the background color as well of our header. Cool. Let's see how that looks like. So let's just start the server and then check our app. Great. So we have welcome developer on the header, and for now this is my homepage. That's the content. Great. I think we are all good to start. Feel free to remove any files that we are not using if you prefer to. I'm not gonna do this now, so we can save some time. Right. First thing first. Before we start using React Router, we actually need an interface. So we need an interface that enables React Router to run in our browser. And also this interface should be responsible for accessing the browser's address bar, so it knows exactly the location of the current page. And also it should be able to access the browser's history. So it has the intelligence to navigate between pages. Right, so React Router provides us with this interface. So it's pretty simple to use, and let me just show you how. So back to our main entry point of our app. So because I created using which, in my case is main. If you created your React application using create React app, it's index.tsx. So what I'm gonna do here, I will start by importing the interface, which is called browser router, and I'm importing that from React router DOM. Perfect. So what I'm gonna do now, I'm gonna just wrap our application with this interface, right? So that means that inside my app, I can use React Router now. Perfect. That's basically the first step. Cool. I think we are doing well. Now that we have the interface, we can start creating some rules, developer. So I'm just trying to keep a fast pace in this video, so it won't be boring for you, and you can jump into the post and learn more of details at your own pace. Right, so next one, let's register our routes. So we know that routes is basically a path to get to a certain content, right? And this content can be an entire page, or it can be just a small portion of your existing page. So let's get there. So from here, we need to import something that's going to create us a array of routes. So let's import first from React Router library the routes that we want, and individual routes as well. So inside this, I can now register my routes, and I'm gonna just remove this app for now. And that's the place that I'm gonna create. For example, here in my route, I will just show you some quick one. So let's say in my the route level, I want to present an element. So just note that a route component from the React Router library expects to receive a path and an element. So it's basically the element is what to render once the user requests this path. For example, here could be a simple element, and I could say, okay, so this is my route level route. Something simple as this. Okay, so that's how we register a route. So let's create something that is actually meaningful and can illustrate our example. Let me just get rid of this terminal so we don't waste this space on our page. So for now, let's go to the source and let's create a folder so we can organize everything inside here. I'm using routes as a name. I think it's pretty straightforward for everyone. I don't know, maybe someone new starting to work on this app. Feel free to name in any way that you want. Right, so routes. Let's create a field so we can illustrate. I was thinking about us creating a homepage one. So that's one. And so basically what we are creating here is route components, right? Which is nothing more than a React component. Let's create one for, I don't know, some classic contact page, and another one for some classic about page. So homepage, we want something pretty simple here. So here, I can say, okay, I'm gonna return a div, and this is, I am a homepage. Perfect. I will do the same for contact and about. So I'm just copying and paste. You can save some time. Contact page, and same with about. So about, and cool. I'm in about page. Awesome. Cool. Let's just close all this window and start again so we don't get confused. Right. Cool. So we have our routes now. So we need to register our routes at the endpoint, so the application knows where to get to those paths and what to render. So let's just replace here. So I want every time that I get to the route level, what I want to present is my app component. And every time that I get to maybe this contact path, I want to present my contact that we just created, right? I'm gonna auto import here, so self-closing, and I'll copy and paste. So that's the about one. About it's complaining, but I can just import. Awesome. Great. I just skip one line here for organization purpose, and I will just move this above. Perfect. Awesome. Great. So I think we are in a good start to do a quick test. So let's go back to our browser and let's do one thing. About. Great. About page, contact page, and root level. That's the app, and that's where we have our beautiful design. Simple but beautiful. Cool. So I think it's important to do one change here. Don't worry about the homepage root component that we just created. We are going to use that later, guys. So for now is, let's share the same style that we have on app. Let's share with contact and about. So we make sure that every root that we create, we share the same design. So remember that this is in the way that it was before. That's a self-closing element, right? And what we want to do is we want to wrap every root inside this root component, right? So that was a pretty simple change, but doing this way, we know that contact and about will have the same style as the parent one, right? That works exactly the same way as when we used to create those layout components in React. It's basically the same way, right? That we pass the children and then we render that children as part of the arguments, input arguments. So for now, okay, so if we do this, actually nothing's gonna happen. So if we go to about here, cool, it's nothing's happening. Even though it's getting to this root path, it's still render what we have on app. So it's just one more change that we have to do. Let's jump into our app. Right. So before, let's say if we had if this was a React, we had those kind of children, right? It's pretty much the same. But what we have to do, which is pretty handy, it's something provided by the React Router library, which is outlets. So I'm gonna import one from that library, and let's say my main section, instead of render this hard-coded message, I actually want to render an outlet here. So that means it's the same as I come here and I say, I don't know, this is my children, right? The same thing. That's where I render my children. Cool. Let's go back to the end import again and go. So we should be able to share. Oh, cool. It's already here. So I'm about page, contact. I'm a contact page, and if we go to the root, nothing, right? Cool. So let's say that I want that every time that I have nothing to present, which that means the path requested by the user is not contact and is not about. So when we get to that situation, I still want to use the outlet here. I still want to use this functionality from the library, but instead I'm gonna use something that we call index root. So I will create another one. So that's my index, and my element here is that home root component that we created. So what I'm saying here, every time that I get to this path, and I'm not rendering contact or about, so actually I'm rendering the default root level here, okay? So I'm saying that if that happens, please render the index root. Therefore, for us, home component. So when I do this, look, I'm a home page and I'm still on the root level, okay? So that can be pretty handy. So we know we have control over what to present in case no children root is as matched by the request. Perfect. Next topic that I think could be really useful for us is what happens if we get to this we get to the root level, but actually the user tries to search for some root that doesn't exist. So let's say we have content in about, but the user tries to search for some kind of I don't know, some kind of like a register page, and doesn't exist. We should be able to control what you present, right, as some kind of not found page. So React Router provides us with a concept called no match root, which basically that means if nothing is if nothing above match, then render this. Let's say I'm gonna call this, I'll put here not found, sorry. And of course, let's just close down. Let's see what happens. Go here and I'll try to something for, like, I don't know, that'll be my register page. It doesn't exist, right? Not found, sorry. Just a simple message. We could get to a, I don't know, some really fancy image to present here, so, or maybe some back to the home page button or something. Great. So I think it's working pretty well. Right. So, but actually we are, to get to a better illustration approach here, instead of manually going to the address bar and changing the address, we can actually, let's say that we want to create a very quick navigation one component. I'm going to hit a component and I'm going to call this, that's my navigation, and I have a navigation component inside, right? And let's just export, and that's my navigation component. And actually what that returns for me, of course, that's a nav, right? So in a traditional or legacy word, we say that we could get to just hyperlinks, right? Because that's how we navigate between pages. That's still the case. It's not legacy, of course, but if you are working with React Router, there is a pretty handy way to do this. So we are going to be using the HTML hyperlink element anyway, but not directly. So there is one thing that we can import from the library, which is a link. This link component is pretty simple to use, and actually the only thing that we do here is I have a link and I say, okay, so when I click on this, what's the path or route that I will redirect the user to? So I'm gonna redirect to the home page, and I'm gonna call this home. Right. So yeah, something's really wrong. Let's see. Okay. We can go back to that later and see what is happening there. Perfect. So in the next one, we'll move to our contact page, and I'm gonna call this contact, and the other one redirects to about, and that goes to about page. Cool. It's pretty much what we need. Oh, of course, that's an import, not export. I'm sorry, guys. Cool. So we get to the link. So let's use, I think it's better for this. Let's just avoid some CSS weirdness. I'm gonna just put, I know this is definitely not the most professional approach, but just for us to have something at least a little bit nicer to present. And inside my folder, I'm gonna create this index file. That's how I export my components. This is a personal preference, actually, on how to export a component. You feel free to do in any way that you want. I think in this way that keeps everything very organized. So yeah, up to you. Cool. So let's we have our navigation. Let's just move that to our app, and I don't know, maybe on the header. Let's see how that looks like. Navigation, and let's just use from here. So we just import our component and one row for organization purpose. Let's see. Cool. Home contact. And yeah, cool. It's changing the contact below, right? And so it's working pretty well. Nice. Cool, guys. So we know how to navigate now. We know how to register routes. We know how to create an index route, no match or not found route. Awesome. So that is one last concept that we can talk about here. So I'm trying not to keep this video very long, guys, but that might be a good one to present. So we are gonna see how to read URL parameters. I'm just give you the context for this scenario first, guys. What we do here is, let's say that we have a users page, and then we have a list of users, and then for each user we want to redirect to a page and show some content that is particular to that user, right? And so we need some kind of dynamic route, right? Because if I have like hundreds of users in my list, I don't want to create hundreds of route components as we did for about, contact, and home. We need something more, I don't know, easier for us. So let me show you how we can do this. So before, let's create some mock data. So I'll come here and put some data, and in data, let's create some users TypeScript file. Cool. So from here, let's start with a simple interface. So we make sure that we have some type validation as well, some handy IntelliSense. And first, let me just disable my Copilot, so we can actually do some effort. Number, cool. So that's a string name, actually. Great. So that's our interface for user. Next, what we want to do is let's have a, that's our users, and this actually returns a array of user, and then in here, you know, my ID will be 1, my name will be Dan, and the other one will be ID will be 2, and name, I'll put my last name, Castro. Cool. We could have hundreds or thousands of users. Great. So let's just export. So just in case, I'll export my interface in case I need this for future use. And I'm gonna export my users, right? Oh, users. Cool. Awesome. We have something to use. We have some mock data. Perfect. So now let's jump into the page that we want to present the users. Okay. So let's say that we want to present the users on our home page. So I'm gonna go to my root here. I'm gonna go to my home page, and I will change just a little bit the structure here. Let's do a quick map. So first, I'm gonna use some React fragment because I want to return something more than just one element in here. Perfect. And okay, so I'm a home page. Let's put another one. So those are my users. And then yeah, let's do a quick map. Users, that comes from our mock data, right? And let's do some map. So we know that we have a user, and for this user, guys, let's remember the link from the library. That's what we want to use, right? And then I'm gonna send to a different path this time. So I'll put slash users and slash user ID. That's my the value that I want to redirect the users, and then what do I want to present? That's user dot user.name. Cool. Let's just import the link from React Router library. Awesome. I think we are doing pretty well. Map. Let's see how that looks like. Cool. My homepage, those are my users. We have Dan and we have another one, Castro. Cool. As you probably can see, I'm not much concerned about the styling at this moment, guys. But I think it's good enough for you just to learn more about the React Router library. Great. So we actually redirected. What happened if I click on one? Not found, right? I don't have this route registered on my app. Great. Let's just fix this. So what I want to do is I want to have a users page. Maybe I have some like common title for the page, and I have a small part of the page that I want to present the user ID and the username that I'm requesting, right, to the URL, to the path. Okay, so let's do one thing. First, let's create our users page. Cool. Pretty simple content. Only I'm gonna call this, of course, users, and I'm gonna return for now something like let's do something a little bit better. A2, and I'll say okay. So users page. I think this is good for now, but let's just prepare some space, guys. What I want you to do is remember the outlet that we use it for the content. Let's use the same. So let's put React fragment here, and that's the users page, and I'm gonna use the outlet from the React Router library. So I'm just using the automatic import. Great. So this is common for every user, and the outlet section, this belongs to the user that I'm rendering, right? The individual user. Cool. Let's just go back. This should be good enough. Now let's do something. We want to present the user information on this outlet, right? So let's create another page, or just a root component actually. So this one is for individual users. So user, and in here we want something a little bit different. So I'm gonna use my let's just put this paragraph element here. I'm gonna use this, and I'm gonna say that ID. Okay, so that's the ID, and then I'm gonna space and name, and that's the name. Cool. So let's learn how to extract this from the URL, right? So I want to find a way to dynamically read the URL parameters and use on my code. So there's a hook in the React Router library that we can use for this situation, right? So let me show you. Can call this params, because the return of that hook, it's an object of key value pairs. So the name is user params from the React Router library. Cool. Awesome. So that's what I want, right? And there's two ways to use, guys. We can read everything, or actually if we know what we are requesting, we can get directly. So let's say mom used the ID, and I don't have the name yet, so let's get the name. So what I'm gonna do actually, I'm gonna put some name here, and I'm gonna import the users from our mock data, and I will do some finding where, I don't know, user ID equals to user.id dot string. Great, that's what we need. So, and that shows the name. Perfect. I think that's all we need actually. Cool. Let's time to register, guys. So to register, back to our entry point. My case, main. Your case could be index if you are using Quake React app. So let's register the users root. Very important to be before the no match one, right? Otherwise, the user root will never be matched by the request, right? Because actually, as you can see, the star sign here means all or everything. I'm gonna do one thing, path. So when we get to this point, that's gonna be for us, I don't know, users. And in here, my element, I'm gonna say, okay, so render my users component. So let's just import here. I'm gonna users from users, and as I'm here, I'll do the same for our child, right? Or like the individual users. Okay, so we know that this, in this case, that means a parent one, right, for us. So it cannot be self-closing. So from here, let me just close the users root, and inside, same as we did above, right, with the app component or the root path. And in here, I'm gonna put path. Look, I think that's where the magic happens. So I'm gonna say this, right? That means that every time that I get to the user's path, and then anything after that, any value that I have users slash some value, I'm gonna redirect to my user. Cool. Awesome. I think that's all we need. Let's try. If I click on gen, okay, ID1 name object, fine, no problem. I'll go back to home and Castro ID2 name object. Okay, perfect. Let's just fix that. Of course, it's not the user, so we need his name. Let's go back to see. Dan, ID1 name Dan, and back to home. Castro, perfect. So yeah. So now we just learned how to read URL parameters, and yeah, so much more in the React Router library that we can learn. This is a really quick and high level overview. It's an amazing library. Definitely, in my opinion, definitely crucial for any React application. Or and also this comes together with Remix if you are starting with the framework. So it's definitely a very important knowledge to have, guys. And yeah, that wraps it up pretty much, developer. And thank you very much for following along together with me today. And I hope you have learned something useful for your journey and enjoyed the ride, of course. So if you have any questions, feel free to leave in the comment below. I'll be more than happy to reply. And yeah, take care, and I'll see you in the next one.